So for what's coming through, for that's been simmering in the field, is that we are right now at that what we call as, what can be sensed as a bridging time. All, of course, linearly speaking, right? Transformation is the experience of transforming is only at the level of the linear time-space mind. If you're present and simply aware, that is the true nature, then that's all there is. There is no experience of transformation in that sense. So in the same context, transformation applies for that which lives as the linear time space, which is the body, right, and the thinking mind and its experience. This is the five sensory 3D, as we say, and of the outer world, that framework. So as always, right, foundational to hold the paradox. That will actually determine even the experience of transformation. Yeah, so that really was coming through. But what's been simmering really in the field with so many of the questions, and that may be relevant as well for you, is at this time we are at the tail of Dakshinayana, right, with the winter solstice coming up. And even if we have to linearly kind of look at a time frame apart from a date per se, right, chronos, calendar, date, time as winter solstice, this time frame is very potent, right? It's the bridging, it's the feminine that is subtle. That's what I mean by feminine, which is the subtle sensing, right? The subtle sensing is now, consciousness is actually now vibrating as the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, and as that's the emotional body, as the soul, one may say, all cycles within cycles at different level, and that means as the subconscious mind. Yeah, so this is where we at the collective level are really at the point of deep sensitivity. That is the truer nature of consciousness that we are. That is power. This deep sensitivity allows for sensing of a higher perspective, right? Seeing experience with clarity for what it is, what is happening, so that interpretation and all is not just done by the gross level senses, which when consciousness, that which we are, is playing only as the five senses. Yeah? Therefore, that's why each stream of consciousness is vibrating, and that vibration, that frequency determines the experience of our reality and world. So that's what's meant by there's no world outside. There's kind of a little bit more to it, but in this context. So what's really been simmering in the field, and this is a response to those questions that have really been coming, is that, you know, every year annually, if you have to look at it, it's the usual annual cycle, right? The feminine comes, and it's like the feminine rising. There's deeper sensing, even at the level, even if the identity is still the person, and then moving into Uttarayana phase. Uttarayana, that's post winter solstice, right? And that's the time of the masculine. That means it's the feminine, the subtle, that's the truer nature of consciousness, manifests as the five sensory world that can be celebrated as the masculine world that we see, right? So that's why spring, we see flowers blooming, we see, you know, new leaves, all of that, that's going to come with summer, right? The living, the fruition of all of that, right? At every level we can really look at that. So that's happening. So now generally at the annual level, that's happening with the identity of the person, right? We feel like we're growing, we're coming into more understanding. It's like at the Dwapar Yuga play, because Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga is all about the identity still as a person. It's coming into what the personal self will say is, you know, being more self-empowered. The self is the person. But this time around, the shift is already done. This is the awakened body-mind world experience, we are already in the Treta and Satyuga paradigm, right? So we are awakened. So it's a big yuga shift. So the energy of this shift, especially if you look at it, is very strong and potent, right? Because when the feminine, if you look at the feminine and give it an image that can be helpful as a river, right, or rivers, because in the Dwapar Yuga state of mind, right, it's like we split our energy. I kind of come back to that for one of the questions, what choice do I make, right, all of that. So we split, and then so this is like a sangam, right? So energy gets concentrated and focused. If you're looking at it from the Dwapar Yuga state of mind, gets focused into this, and so there's like this confluence. There's a confluence of energies coming, there are understandings coming together, all of that. So the questions first that were coming forth very much, it's just been simmering in the field, is the activation and the churning again of the personal mind. When this whole process of integration, what we call as evolution, ascension, however you want to put it, when consciousness starts now vibrating pretty much at the subtle body, subconscious emotional body, right? That's why we become sensitive, right? We sense emotions very clearly. If we are looking at it from our personal identity and lens still, our experience will be very different. And the last video I think I shared that's the tamas and the sattva difference, right? Rajas is where is the activity that's happening. It's always in the center, right, in that sense. So if you're looking at it from the personal mind and interpretation, our interpretation and experience of this transformation will be very different if we come from our truer self, which is staying timeless and empty. That is the sattva state, right? So the questions that were coming forth is this sudden churning of the mind. And if you're finding that, right, some kind of, this is simply phenomena. You know, once we see the nature of mind as phenomena, we are able to hold it with the right perspective. And there's an automatic reframing of that that can be helpful, right? Till this masculine dominant intellectual mind integrates into the heart. Yeah, so this is for that. So what is happening at this time? One perspective, depending on where you're standing and looking, is that the feminine, that means consciousness, that which we are, is already at the subtle. It's already doing that at the subconscious level, and that means the feminine is rising. That's how it's put. And it's the same thing with the masculine intellectual mind dissolving. That is why you hear the narratives of, surrender. Right? Now what happens is this, there is a pace to this, right? We are consciousness, and each stream of consciousness has its own style, has its own timing, has its own pace with how this is happening, right? So it's not the same for each of us. But what happens at this point in response to this question is that when our feminine has risen, that means we are feeling that, all that emotions. The minute this feminine rises, what is the nature of water? Right? It's the wisdom of water. Right? The water kind of really, rubs at the rock, these hard, concrete beliefs that the intellectual mind, as the gross mind we've been playing at the Dwapar Yuga state of mind. This is as the energetic knots in the body as well, right? It's in the whole field per se. So when the feminine rises, it's the dislodging, right? That's the awakening Dwapar Yuga state. The dislodging happens. We really feel it. You'll feel it literally from the body, from the base all the way into the heart, maybe in the throat you're feeling. You'll start feeling this, right? Things coming up. So kind of just a picture of this, okay? When that dislodging happens, that is the feminine has risen, but the masculine dominant intellectual mind, that is our previous identity, hasn't dissolved fully yet, right? The integration in the heart is still happening, right? With the light coming in. this is the point when the churn is felt, right? In India, in the Indian culture, that's why we call this as the Samudra Manthan, right? And all the poisons coming up, right, of the identity of duality, and that is shown by the devas and the asuras, the good and the bad. So this splitting starts to happen, and this is the same thing you may hear in words as the timeline is splitting. It's the same thing, right? So it's an internal, in that sense, journey that's happening, because our experience of outer reality and world is simply an experience that is determined by the vibration state of consciousness. Everything is consciousness vibrating, and that which it experiences, it perceives in the world, in that sense, right? So it has its own divine timing, one may say. So when this starts coming up, right, it's very, very important. So the questions, I want to put this in the right context, kind of covering different contexts here. The questions were coming up is that suddenly there is so much churn, right? So we get like the mind is just kind of feeling like things are not the same, right? They're not predictable. And this mind, which I speak of is our identity, of which is identified with the body and the personal mind, all of that. It's the nature of the Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, right? As long as consciousness is identified at the level of the body, if that is the identity, right, then the identity of that is the experience of living as a mortal. Naturally, consciousness comes, the root chakra is constricted, so that's why the level of awareness is less, and we are identified only at the five senses. Right? And this is what we came here for. We take in all the conditions from the Dwapar Yuga world, right? And then that means we live as memory, smriti. We don't know what the present moment is. We don't know what awareness is. As long as we're moving as this thought, we're moving as the idea, the name, the roles we've been given as the past. We take the conditioning that is the past of the mind. That is what projects it into the future. This whole phenomena to see that. And because it's five senses, the split is the dynamic of the split. If you really see the image that's coming through is a seesaw, right? The minute consciousness center, if you look at the infinity point, the center moves as a separate eye, the dynamic has shifted, the seesaw. Now the balance has to be done. It's simply phenomena. It's beautiful to see. It's simply phenomena once you see this. So the dynamic, that shift has happened, right? The center shifts to the personal I. The minute the consciousness is experiencing itself as a personal I, lopsided. So now this side becomes small. That means the I is smaller, power is outside. The experience of the 3D world, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, is the illusion of giving the power away. That the outer now world and whatever has more power over me. Right? And that play kind of starts, the power dynamics start, if you want to put it that way. And it's the experience, that's why, of lack and scarcity. If I'm identified at the body, you know, it's so fascinating to see, like even though we may not consciously know it, right? But energetically, energy speaks, right? It's that everything is the subconscious subtle body, right? That level. So what happens is when we live as that lack and scarcity, is because even when a baby is born and we are identified at the level of the body, there is a dependency, right? Literally at the level of life and death, right? I'm born and I'm going to die. The experience of being mortal, and that I'm dependent for my survival, right? To really see this with neutrality for phenomena. Yeah, this is very, very key, because there are a lot of narratives otherwise we take on in our seeking journey. Yeah, so this can really be helpful. It is what we as consciousness came here to play, right? What does it mean to live as this person, as a body? Is to experience the emotions of that, the play of that, right? Which includes a lot more, but of course we're speaking in this context. So in this, there's a dependency. I have to breathe the air for me to survive. If I cannot breathe, I'm dead, right? Even simple for the baby, nourishment, comes from the mother, comes from outside. I'm dependent on the outer. Right? So that's the dynamic. And that everything is relating. Everything that is determined by the I. The nature of experience and how we will relate in all our relationships is based on the I. Right? So that's why know thyself. Know the nature of mind, everything unravels. So kind of just setting this up, right? So this personal mind, naturally then to live as the body, that person, that identity at the level of the body will naturally look at a larger strange world, and its needs, which are valid needs, is of food, is of shelter, right, of if it's physical health, and needs of that, a roof over the head, right, and things like that, and its way of conditioning the way that it's thinking. This is very can be very helpful to see and know that naturally when the personal mind is looking at something, then naturally our security, our safety will be what is taken into consideration first. Right? Every choice will come from that. We will make a choice based on the fact that this choice makes me feel comfortable because it's the known. This is the known mind, right? All decisions are made from the five senses. What I know, I can trust, and that is what makes me feel comfortable. That's what I'm going to choose to do. Yeah? So it's the known mind's play. What happens is that now that we are awakened and the known mind is not known anymore, we are in the fluid waters of the unknown. Naturally, if the personal mind hasn't surrendered, doesn't have faith, doesn't have trust, or doesn't see the nature of reality and self and mind that it is, that which it is still identified and still playing at the tail end, right? In the sense, it hasn't dissolved fully. Then there is that flapping, right? It's the picture that's coming. If you're in the swimming pool, like when you're learning to swim, right? So it's the experience of naturally the body that doesn't know how to swim, right? Is standing apart from the waters that it is. It's going to flap. We're going to drink a little bit of water. We're going to go up and down till we figure ourselves out, right? That's the experience. That's the bridging point. That's the bridge. We're learning to swim the waters that which we are. And this is the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is the fluid, living our truer nature as flow. And that flow is experienced differently when we come from our truest self, our truest nature as awareness, timeless. And that happens when we, in many ways, when we see the nature of this linear time space for the reality, the illusion that it is. But if we are still energetically, see, within the body, there is this energetic things of the world. And also one more thing that I really want to share, that's why is that the things that we think as a personal, that our thoughts are ours, our emotions are ours, is because we are not yet aware of our true reality as consciousness. So as we start becoming sensitive, it becomes very important also during this transition time, that's why, to take time for yourself, yeah, for self-care, to make sure if you need to take time for yourself, do so, go within, because we are finding our roots at this time, right? We are still in the unknown, we don't know, and this brings up a lot of this talk. The other thing that's really coming up, which is very key also to know, which is so natural, right? We've lived, this intellectual mind has lived its identity, its knowing, and it believes that it is the doer, so it needs to lead, right? It needs to know, because how can I not know? Because I need to decide, right? So the questions also were coming up on, what do I do? What choice do I make? So this mind gets overactive because it has a need, and to honor that need, and that's why this is the path of courage, compassion, that's what we say for the personal mind. That's how it will be experienced and invited into, because when we are identified as this, that trust, faith, courage, patience, right? All these are linear time things for the intellectual mind, because as long as we're here, everything in our world will change. However that might happen for us, right? So it requires all of that, to have the courage, the trust, most of all compassion for our journey. So taking time for ourselves is key, so that we can stay in that deeper sensing, because we are that. So that allows for a deeper knowing, direct experience of that which we are. Yeah? So to remember that as long as the intellectual mind, which sees and has made meaning only from the outer Dwapar Yuga world, one, it struggles and it naturally moves to control. Right? That's the phenomenon, that's the seesaw. As long as the center is off and the identity is a separate self, if there is more power outside, then naturally this will move. It feels incomplete, right? These are the energetic incompletions in the body, right? That's why body work really comes into play. That's where really pranayama and all of that really comes into play, because at the level of our identity, nothing changes. So we need to be able to hold that, again, paradox. All practices are for the body, this thinking mind, and that experience, that paradigm, right? Very, very key. So this one has a need, so to be able to acknowledge that need, right, and build trust that I am consciousness, that is the invitation right now. That's the divine feminine, right? If you look at it as a body of ocean, right, the emotional body, the soul body is like the ocean, and it's like the intellectual mind is the shore standing, right, very familiar on firm ground, comfortable. But the intellectual, personal 3D world, body-mind world, it's thirsty. After consciousness is done with its experience, it's literally a dead experience. The five sensory world and its experience, in that sense, that's why it's the experience of dead matter. Right? 3D for us, we live as matter. Subject, object. As long as we are identified as the object, we are experiencing our whole self as an objectified world. And when that play is done, naturally, right, as consciousness, we are done tasting it. So now we are thirsty. That's the seeking phase. That's the beautiful seeking phase. See, beautiful way consciousness, that which we are, is moving. All experience at the manifest level as mind is that. So the feminine rising is the waters, she's inviting the intellectual, the masculine, come into the water. I am the waters and you're thirsty, right? This is the inner dynamics. So she invites the masculine self to trust me, right? Come into the unknown, and one way to put it is like, you can swim these waters, age of Aquarius. You can trust to be in the unknown. You got it, right? But the beauty of this is, the subtle sensing, is that you just don't have to swim the waters. You are the wisdom, the sacred waters. This is the call of age of Aquarius. It's not only just jumping into the water and learning to swim, because then the separate I is still there. It is being the waters. That's the absolute surrender, right, of the personal self. And that takes a little bit sometimes courage to absolutely let go and say, come what may, I am life. I am life. Right? So that's the invitation, right, to jump into it. So till that kind of is happening, that's the flow, you're already consciousness. This is simply all at the level of experience in response to the questions, right? It's already there. So till that happens, this churn will come up, and this churn of the intellectual mind is such perfection. That's what we don't see, of course, is such perfection, because it is simply showing where the identity of the personal mind is still holding on. This phenomena is set up so beautifully. We are life appearing at the level of mind is set up so perfectly. Right? It's just showing that once we see it. So I'm kind of called to go through a couple steps. Okay, so if you have a book or something, write this down, literally, right? Because sometimes it always comes up like, what are the steps when we are in it, in some ways, if it helps you. One, of course, that's why, first and foremost, direct path. Who is the I? The lens from which we are seeing will determine, right, what is seen, what is experienced, and the definition of that. Who is defining? Yeah? Who is the I? And know that as long as the lens is looking from the personal self, grasping is going to happen, conflict. The conflict itself experiences a conflicted world, right? All of that. Right? So when we are standing at the sattva as the timeless awareness and just observing, this is all about observing simply with the light, right? Observing the thing that is happening. So what is happening, the picture that's coming is like the water, oceans, like how the waves of the ocean come and crash against the reef. Yeah. So that shows that the reefs are those concrete, energetic beliefs and ideas of the me that is there. Yeah? So the feminine that rises, she rises. And the feminine is the heart, right? She's in the body. If you allow, she's pure compassion. That's why it's gentle power. Like the way the waters erode away lovingly, the rocks. Right? Spend time in nature. We won't need so many words. We won't need so many words. Spend time in nature. Because the beauty of the wisdom that nature holds without a personal identity, we will know things instantly without knowing how we know it in that way. That's how the personal mind will put it. Nature will show. And I highly recommend walk bare feet. And also remember, that's why when we are in nature, we are aligning to our truest self. Okay? And even at the level of the body, because this body and this whole experience belongs to Mother Earth. She knows how to bring this into alignment. So when we are spending time in nature, all these things will come up because the clearing is happening, right? So hold that in the right context. So this comes to the second point. First is just see who is the I. Second, see the nature of the mind that is defining something and expressing something as wrong. When we are identified primary and playing as the Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, when things are going great, it's defined as things are going beautifully, they are good, right? Because things are comfortable. That is the valid nature for that play. Okay? But when that interpretation is brought into these times, which is a different paradigm, we are already awake. We don't have to awaken. Because primary is consciousness. It's only after consciousness shifts, any change or true transformation is possible. Every other change is simply an illusion that is playing in the same paradigm. Right? So true transformation only happens in and as consciousness. So when the consciousness has shifted and we are now vibrating at a different ascended consciousness and level, the same identity cannot exist there. It's impossible. And that means the identity is the self, the mind, the world. It is going to shift. So for the outer senses, right? If you're present, then no narratives are needed. Right? We're just present with what is, we're flowing. But when the outer senses, the five sensory mind which is looking outside and is moment to moment carrying a story, that's the story of transformation. It's going to see that. It's going to see a changing world. It's going to see changing me. I'm changing. All this is only when you're parsing it through the five senses. So when that is happening, and if it is interpreting still, and it's not yet surrendered, then it's in that state of naturally, wanting things to be good. And if it believes that when things are shaky and things are not going according to its plan, that something is wrong. That is the tricky part. So it can really help to see what is actually happening right. Because the truth of it is, you are already awake. And the shake-up that is happening, if you want to put it that way, interpret it that way, is because you are already awake. You are the new self and the new world that you are living. And therefore the old self and the old world cannot live anymore. So it's a time of celebration. Yes, challenges are there, and at the level of the body, then that can be held in the right space, in the right perspective, seen with the right light. And that's why the practice for the awakening Dwapar Yoga mind, as we put it, is observe. Right? This activates when this comes up, which I've shared, which is the Swadhisthana, right? The waters, the root chakra opens up, right? That's it. We are awake at the next level. In that sense, consciousness is awake. And now, Swadhisthana waters has all the conditionings, the muddy waters, all that is going to come up. If our heart is not open, it cannot stabilize in the Manipura as that identity. Our identity gets shaken up. right? It's so beautiful at the chakra level. You don't need all these words, I'm saying, right? But it can help to see the phenomena, right? So this comes up. If the identity is still at the personal, the Manipura does not open up. The heart is closed. This creates that resistance. And that's what we do in our pranayama chakra classes, right? It's the opening. So this comes up, you just allow. You're not that identity anymore. So then the Manipura gets activated, and very key, that's why to keep this space open. This is our core, right? So if you look at the infinity sign, that's why coming into balance, the Dwapar Yuga thing needs to close. The center 0 point is always the center of infinity. Heart needs to be open. This itself, right? So again, tomorrow I have an event that is for the winter solstice. There's a new practice that I'm going to be sharing that's going to be for the age of Aquarius. So to do that practice stabilizes the body and the mind. Powerful practice with the water. So if this resonates, join us. And so I'm just sharing the phenomena here with you, and as well as we are going to go through the 5 sutras that are from the Kundalini yoga lineage, right? And what are the sutras? Just a quick one here. They are threads, right? So the mind is completely like a knot, right? Every state of mind is a knot we can look at. That's the dynamic play. So the beauty of sutra is like you hold a thread, that becomes the way. You hold that thread, but if you hold the right thread, the whole knot unravels, right? That's the beauty. That's the beauty. Right? That's what I'm saying. You come from the right space. It's these challenges can really, this play of transformation can really, it's a game for us, consciousness, when we are conscious, right? It's a game. So you hold the right thread, it's effortless. You just pull at it, the whole thing unravels. So that is why we've had all of these philosophies or whatever we share. They're all very practical. They're not just knowledge for the head, right? So these 5 sutras. And what I'm going to share is bring it down to the one sutra that encompasses all these 5 sutras. Once you see this one sutra, and which is the nature of the mind, okay, I'll just tell you. The sutra itself is, there is no world outside. You may have heard, the world is a mirror. But there is a lot of confusion there. But once you see it, it's done. So come join me as we explore this, right? It'll just unravel. So that's one sutra that encompasses these 5 sutras as well. So the beauty, and we are there at the age of Aquarius. Okay, so if this resonates, come. So moving back to this, right? I was sharing is the thing that when this feminine is rising, and we see this age of Aquarius is this confluence point. That means this mind that is running in 10 different directions, right? It's like the rivers coming together and dissolving in the heart. That is where we are. That is why age of Aquarius is Kumbha. It's the pot of water. Now the container that which we are is fluid. We're already that, subconscious. And that's going to be a different way of being and seeing. That's a different way of being and seeing. And this time, 2025, is the deepening of that. That's why in India we have Kumbh Mela. It's where you will find that all the rishis, all the saints come by Ganga river to celebrate this Kumbh Mela, to honor, acknowledge the nature of consciousness as water.
करम जिसे पुकारे वो पहुँचे गंगा किनारे। न कर मैली तो गंगा तन धोए मन तो गंदा। पलट के फिर नानी बोली बात और बहता पानी। न कर मैली तो गंगा तन धोए मन तो गंदा। मन पावन हो गंगा में डूबे नहाए। मन रावण जो लहरों में तूने बहाए। जो चला गया वो लौट के फिर ना आए। तेरा कर्म ही है जो संग तेरे ही जाए। मन पावन हो गंगा में डूबे नहाए। मन रावण जो लहरों में तूने बहाए। हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर
So they would even say, like, this is where they would say even gods and goddesses come to water. What it really means is that we are the ascended state of consciousness. This is Devaloka, to live fluidly, right? So the Manipura opens up. That's the identity of Lakshmi, that we realize I am the mind, all is the mind, nature of mind. That is abundance, that is prosperity. So we are moving and creating a world of creativity, sheer creativity, unlike what we have seen before, right? And abundance in a different way than what the Dwapar Yuga experiences. A time of prosperity, as within, so without. Very different way. Heart open, right? Time of relating from the heart, knowing that we are one, right? So this opens up. You sense that? And then this throat chakra. So what we utter, what we speak is divine word. So when this comes up, one of the key cycles that I've shared before, like the cycle of the awakening Dwapar Yuga, very key, is when the Swadhisthana things come up, neutral space. This cycle is one, the Swadhisthana. The root and the crown are one. The Swadhisthana and therefore the Agnya are one. This gets activated, and this is the neutral mind. You allow for the good, the bad. This is Shiva. Only Shiva can drink the poison and survive, right? That's what it means. The awakened eye. That's why observe, observe. What this does, okay, I'm telling you, literally this is the mechanics of it, what I'm sharing. Mechanics of the structure of mind from where we are perceiving of this human, evolving human consciousness. Consciousness having an experience of human evolution. Right? So when this happens, that is why the invitation is observe, witnessing phase. Witnessing phase is for the Dwapar Yuga seeking awaken phase. What happens? The more and more we do that, all the energy that is getting dissipated by these thoughts and this churn of the mind, that's the dual mind. Do I go here? Do I go there? So this was another question that was coming up. What is the right choice? For the Dwapar Yuga, it looks like the choice is outside, because we are linearly connecting dots. Oh, because I did this, that happened, and because I did that, that happened. That is the unconscious way of seeing. That is a Dwapar Yuga play, right? Valid when we are playing as that. That's because that's how we'll experience it. And that's why we look outside for experts to tell us, okay, if we do this, that will happen, this will, and then we walk the well-trodden path, right? Because we believe that, and that becomes our valid experience at the Dwapar Yuga. But as Krishna reminds in Bhagavad Gita, right? To Arjuna. Arjuna is the personal mind. Krishna consciousness is our true nature as true self. That's why don't connect anything to the outcome. Don't split yourself as two, as the beginning, intention and the separate goal. It's all one. It's only vibration. So the more and more you're splitting yourself here, consciousness gets split, and the more and more the ripples and the vibration are this, you're going to perpetuate your experience of Dwapara Yuga. Your consciousness already, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, right? Simply as phenomena. See this as phenomena. That's all it is. So that's why the more and more you come into that self-aware presence and you're not splitting yourself, your third eye starts getting activated. This loop starts synchronizing. You will see first, whenever this comes up in the body or in the world, however you experience it, you start shaking. The more and more you start coming to the third, that means becoming present, observing. Another invitation here, which will just really change your life, is instantly, literally I'll say, turn off the outside. One thing that we do when we start awakening, when we see something, we look outside at the world, which is natural phenomena, right? We are identified with the five senses. We want to relate, so we tend to look outwards. The sooner we see the illusion and we come inwards, keep your attention on your journey. The outer world is an illusion of, and then you'll get caught in opinions. Each mind that is seeing is its own lens. It has its own opinion, its own this thing. The more you can keep your energy synchronized and steady and powerful, is you keep your attention on your journey, on yourself. This is the invitation for the awakening Dwapara Yuga mind. So the third eye opens, you are simply noticing what is your experience of your world. That's where it ends. That's where it ends. Because every experience is through the eye. Right? So whatever that eye you might be defining as, so keep it as that. So you come, you look at this is coming up, you bring your energy. Now this develops as a powerful force, and this is where teachings are offered, where it's said that, because somebody was asking, do I choose this? What is the right choice? And everything. I said, if you find yourself in this split energy, simply choose. Make a conscious choice and align with that choice. Period. Because at that level we don't see that actually there is the outer choice of what you're making does not matter. It's vibration. It's your state of being. It's not your doing. But that teaching, right, like I say always, context is everything. What applies for one context does not apply for the other. So to tell a doer not to do, just to be, does not translate. That's where the constriction and the conflict comes. So if you're called to do, that means there is in the body things that you feel like doing. Do, it will serve you, because through doing it will happen. So you're called to do, make the choice. So the Dwapara Yuga mind will go do some research, ask experts, right? Because we want to know. We want to know at that level. We want to feel whatever brings you at peace. Do that. But once you make a choice, align with that choice. It's all a game of alignment. This whole game is only of vibration and alignment. Nothing else. Nothing else. And if we don't align, and if you're not at peace, there is no experience of peace. And of course, very important to name this, we are already peace, no matter what the body and the mind are experiencing. Yeah, that cannot be changed. To hold that, right? So this is not a call to say I'm not feeling peaceful at the level of the body and trying to control our emotions. No, it is seeing the nature of the mind. And the body, as long as the identity is there, to see the nature that is what its nature is. So that's why for a for the personal, this mind to be peaceful, especially initially, will never happen. Another response to the questions, like when I'm sitting for meditation, I can't control my thoughts. That is not going to work at all. The more you control, the more your focus is on it, the more it keeps you engaged. It is not about controlling thoughts at all. It is about seeing the nature of the mind. As you allow it, and the more and more you observe, the fact that you are aware and you're observing it, your awareness is already still. You don't need to control anything outside of you. You already are meditation. The more and more you become still and you allow for the thoughts to run, the steam goes off. The steam is only because we are trying to, which is an unconscious play, of course, naturally, we are trying to control it. We are giving it energy. Nothing has power without our focus on it. Period. Every belief also you hold only has power because you are giving it power. If you don't accept it, it doesn't exist for you. Yeah? That's the invitation. Really sharing here the phenomena once you see this. So what is it? The second thing is very important. That's why see that whenever things shake up, who is the mind that is defining something? And even if it is compassion, see the nature of the body and this thinking mind. It sees limited, and it has been leading till now and beautifully doing so, right? As the Dwapara Yuga play. Right? As the Dwapara Yuga play. So, yeah. So it's not, in that sense, for that identity, surrender can be this thing. That's why it needs to come into faith. And all these words are only for that. You are more than what you think you are. No thought can contain you, ever. Ever. Right? This is the invitation of the Divine Feminine. We can only live this world when we trust the Divine Feminine. Without that, there is nothing. And that is what we see shimmering in the outer world. All relating outer is a reflection of the inner. Once this comes into balance, the experience of our outer world cannot be different. Cannot be different. Yeah? And all is that, the I relating, that determines experience. So the Divine Feminine is always, she is the trust, but the trust of the unknown. So you have to be okay with the unknown. So the rivers are coming in, right? When many rivers come together, that means so many thoughts of the intellectual wing, it will be taking us, we have so many beliefs. So look at that as streams of rivers coming together, gushing into the heart. If the heart is not open, if it's not open and you're not able to hold this with compassion, and this is another thing that was coming up because of sharing this in another conversation that came up. Very important, that's why compassion. This is not about whipping up this mind and calling it ego, and that is the heart close. That also is one divine self experiencing that. Nothing is ever wrong, right? Nothing is ever wrong. But the invitation is, the more the heart is open, this is the portal, this is the 0 point, this is the infinity. This is the reflection of that, is the black hole that we see in the cosmos. Everything arises from the heart of being. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Right? So keep this open. The more you're open, that means you're in the unknown. The heart knows nothing. It is love. It simply is. It simply loves. And that's why for the thinking mind, it's unreasonable. So this is a time to be a little bit unreasonable. even to your own self, right? It's the same thing. And you will seem unreasonable to the reasoning minds. Be okay with that. Be absolutely okay with that, because you see the nature. Yeah, there's no reason here. This is love. That's why follow, be in love, follow what you love, see through the eyes of the heart. When you see the eyes through the heart, you'll see every state of consciousness is that which I am, beautifully playing. There's no judgment. There's no judgment. So the rivers are coming in, right? If this portal is closed, the heart then closed, then that rush, right? Like the bubbling of the waters, we can see. But if this heart is open, right? That beautiful, this is the word Sangam, confluence of rivers. So for the Kumbh Mela also, we do the Ganga River. We go to the Sangam point and take a dip. It's all, practice is all at the level of the body, right? Like that's like honoring that, as because our appearing world is a reflection of our truer self. It is not apart from us. So we honor the rivers, we honor the rocks, we honor the leaf. Everything is a face of that which we are as God, if you want to put it that way. Right? Everything is honored that way. So that Sangam was the thing. The Sangam is here, right? And that's the meaning of the Sangha. This is the union point. The intellectual mind dissolving into the heart, right? So keep your heart open. And that is possible because the heart is always in the now, timeless presence. It is not making meaning here. This is coming into the body. The more we come in here, this is the intuition. This integrates the body and the mind, which are two sides of the same coin. At this level I'm speaking. So you come from your intuition and you let your intuition guide you. Right? The heart is open, you let your intuition guide you. Intuition is, this is another question that was coming up because there's so many questions. How do I hear? First, of course, stillness. Coming into the heart, becoming present and now, only then you'll hear your inner voice. It will not happen from your loud looking outwards. See, all these outside words can only be pointers. Ultimately, you have to become, you have to be present and you have to come into your own, right? This is the path only we can walk on our own in some ways. So this, when it's open presence and intuition is only sensed, it arises in and as presence. It's a flavor of presence. Intuition is not a flavor of thinking mind. It arises into that. But the root of that is presence, awareness. Come into that. Yeah? From that. And it's so unique. Each stream of consciousness is here as a unique dynamic, perfect dynamic piece of a puzzle. Okay? So it cannot be given as a concept either. Don't take any concepts about that which once you're living as consciousness, it's simply a blip. You're arising with the face. Next minute the face changes, whatever that is. Yeah, so that's why it seems wild. That is why for the Dwapara Yuga mind, the Dwapara Yuga mind can only trust that which has a standard face. If I put you in a box, then I know you, I can trust you. This is too unknown for the Dwapara Yuga mind. It makes its own meaning. It's a little too wild. But if you look at nature, she's wild. And only the courageous, one way to look at it, right? It's all consciousness. And it's a natural phenomenon, right? That we come into that, in that sense. So this is, to live as consciousness is to live wildly. And this is to know the freedom that which we already are as consciousness. So it's going to be very unique for each of us. Yeah? It's not one path, because somebody is asking, because of that we need to look like quiet, we need to look like, saint. The true self has no one way or one face. Yeah? So just give you an idea, like this comes together, this confluence is happening. It's already, the feminine has already risen, the heart is already open. That is the reason the shift and the shake-up is happening. So celebrate that. Third point, if you see this thing splitting that thing, that is what it is. Make a choice, because if you are looking from this, you will have to make a choice. Otherwise, living as consciousness is choiceless. As soul, it's knowing. You move choicelessly. It's like a yes without the opposite of a no. The no dissolves. It's so clear what consciousness is living as this theme, and it's so clear. But till that integration happens, it's very important that you don't get caught in this, and that is where the teaching comes, that the timelines are splitting and that the energy is splitting. Align with what feels right for you. Alignment is important. It's not about the right or wrong choice. Left, right, whatever choice you've made, align with the choice. That's important. It's the state of being, and state of being allows for clarity, right? So very important. Align with it, and this starts now. What happens the minute we align? Energy is not lost. Dwapara Yuga is a state of really losing a lot of energy. That's why we need a lot of rest. We need a lot of that. Align with your energy, okay? So you're bringing it all together, and now you're becoming present, right? You're moving as the living choice. So you want to see peace in the world? Be the peace. Live the peace. Know that I am already the peace. That's the deeper truth as true self. It's not even at the level of the body, right? Body will keep going through its changes. The mind, it'll keep whatever it needs to do till it comes into full integration, till it empties out into the luminous self. Allow that pace for it. Yeah, it's served so much. So to have a lot of compassion for us, for our body and our even thinking mind, right? Always look through that lens. Come back, come into this space. Personal, the body starts releasing, you become present, right? Align, take good care of yourself, self-care at the level of the body, peace. So choose peace. You want to see love? Choose love. You want to see light? Be the light. Be the light. You don't even have to utter a word, right? Because now you know, as consciousness simply being present itself is the existence of the world. No I, no world. No awareness, nothing exists. Right? So it's just as simple as that. We already are it. We already are it. That is who we are. So each stream of consciousness that stabilizes into its own, however that may look like, holds that at the collective level, if you want, because these are all contexts, holds it for the collective level. So when we awaken to the collective level, it's not our thoughts, it's not our emotions, it's the collective field that is awake now. So we'll feel the emotions, that's why the heart is a powerful alchemist, right? Transmutator. You keep your heart open, you are transmuting emotions for everyone around you. Your loved ones, the community that you belong to, you don't have to say what, everything you're doing. Yeah, so that's why honor your sovereign self and your sovereign way. That is important. Nobody can tell you from outside. Trust your own way of doing this. There are many ways consciousness moves to do this. What's your way? You'll know. You'll know. Right? So that emotions, whatever that is, then for the community, then you become that light. The body, in that sense. But your consciousness. So then come in touch and then you move. So the practices and all of that can be very helpful for that. But this was really coming through, because if your inner critic or your voice that keeps saying wrong, and this is the split, right? Yes or no. And see the nature of this, right? It will always push against the no and move towards the yes. And that creates the Dwapara Yuga push and pull of the feminine and masculine. Just see it for what it is. So we are in the age of Aquarius, Kumbha, We are a new world right now. So the shake-up, however we may be sensing it, if you're sensing it, is you awake to your true self as embodied divinity. You are Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. You are the ascended human, the ascended master, if you want to put that name. You are the integrated being. You are the golden age. This is a siddhi. The heart open and living as the world. I am my world is a siddhi. And it is sheer power to be able to take in, right? When we become steady at our own pace, to take in and be this in the world. There is no world outside of ourselves. There's no world. And to really see this, that we meet nobody and the nature of mind. We are never meeting anybody else independently outside the mind. And that there is no world outside the mind. We'll take a deep dive in our winter solstice event and explore that and do a practice, right? That is important. Like at the level of the body, do a practice that unravels everything. I hope to see you there. Much, much love to living and celebrating that which we already are. An awakened body, mind, world. Much love. Have a beautiful day.